I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James White, Field Yates Neenekeims. All right, so first play we're going to look at, 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everybody? Mike Kadlick here, Tayler Kyles there, back with another episode of the Patriots Daily podcast, powered by our good friends at Prize Picks and Game Time. And today, powered by a very, very special guest. It is Eric Galko. He is the director of the East-West Shrine Bowl, one of the prospect bowls across the country that happens ahead of the NFL draft. Now, obviously, we have Eric here post-draft because the Patriots brought in plenty of players, just like they have the last couple years, actually, from the East-West Shrine Bowl. So we want to pick your brain, Eric, and get your thoughts on some of these guys the Patriots bring in 2025. But before we get into it, want to get your thoughts first and foremost on the beginning of the Mike Vrabel era in general. Patriots obviously move on from Gerard Mayo last January, bring in Vrabel, and have sort of completely changed over the last couple months. So just your thoughts on what's happened so far. And also, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the time.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. I'm here in Boston, too, so I'm not a Patriots fan by nature, too, but I feel a kinship with the organization here. I've been here for the last 6-7 years. I think the Vrabel era, obviously Mike was a great coach in Tennessee and kind of a weird ending, as opposed to other guys who kind of get let go or fired in Tennessee. He's a guy that certainly had a lot of respect around the NFL. And I think, seeing his input on kind of being a football guy, that cliche, but really being a former player who can also be a former coach and have that dual value and building a culture, and bringing in Ryan Cowden, who did a great job in Tennessee as well, working Vrabel closely, but then also kind of still seeing year 2 of Elliott Wolf and that new change in their scouting process. Their scouting process changed a lot in his first year as kind of the lead executive, and it's changing more and more too. So I think it's a great fit for New England to have kind of 2 different people, Elliott being the son of Ron Wolf and having a lot of great people he's worked with throughout his entire career, from the Green Bay people to the Cleveland people, now in New England. And then you have Mike Vrabel, player, coach, played in New England, had a lot of success there as well too. And, from all I've heard, it's gone great so far behind the scenes as well too. So having 2 really smart people to be your 2 figureheads is a great place to be if you're the Patriots organization.
And I'm kind of curious from a philosophical standpoint, because like you mentioned, there were some differences with the regime, and with Elliott as someone who was there for the past couple of years, what were some things that you noticed? Because Elliott, as a ball knower, spends a lot of time at the Shrine Bowl, so he's very familiar with your guys, and you've been able to kind of see his process from a certain perspective. So how has it looked for you over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I think from my vantage point and seeing how they've done things, maybe how Elliott's operated as well too, is that it seems they've valued a lot of players that can be competitive. In the last offseason, just from the distance, watching it, a lot of receivers, a lot of O-line in camp that were quality guys. And I think the focus of the Patriots kind of rebuild has been the back end of the roster has to be much better, right? That's how you really do a rebuild. And when you do it that way, you're A, going to have more competition, B, you're churning your roster is going to be more successful, and then C, if you have the right coach and motivator, you can make the top end guys that much better. So I think from the scouting process, they've done a lot more things of kind of tilling the back end of the roster, using not only the Shrine Bowl and other All-Star games, but non-combine guys, non-All-Star game guys, evaluating them really closely as well too, putting a lot on their area scouts, giving them a lot of ownership to do what they have to do as well too. So I credit Elliott a lot to kind of the leadership he's done to kind of bring the scouting process and the decision-making process much more forward. Again, not just in the top picks, but those day 3 picks, those PFAs, that practice squad churn. He's done a great job, the Patriots, the last 2 years.
So you mentioned the Shrine Bowl, obviously. Patriots bring in 2 draft picks from the Shrine Bowl this year. Safety Greg Woodson and kicker Andres Borregales. And then 3 DUFAs as well, who we'll get to in a second. But want to get your thoughts on Craig Woodson, safety out of Cal. Patriots spend their first 4th-round pick out of him early on day 3. What do you make of the player that the Patriots are getting? Strengths from him, maybe some weaknesses. I know you don't want to obviously talk down on these guys, but what's the I guess the full scouting report on a player like Craig Woodson?
Yeah, for one, great value. I remember going into draft month and draft week, I was pretty confident to be a top 100 pick, and I'm going not too much further after that, early in the 4th round. But a lot of teams really value Craig Woodson for a couple of reasons. One, he's played a lot of football, not just at safety and playing in the nickel or playing at both safety spots, but also on special teams. He's got the height, weight, speed to play in space and to play on special teams at a high level early on in the NFL. I think NFL teams didn't know how fast and athletic he was, and showed that at the NFL Combine. He was a guy that, I thought was pretty athletic. We actually invited him the year prior to the East-West Shrine Bowl. So we've liked Craig for 2 years now. The NFL teams were a bit surprised. He ran in the mid to low 4.4s at the NFL Combine and tested well throughout. I think his experience at Cal, playing both spots at safety, really adds value to NFL teams. But I think the big thing for Craig this year is just looking back at how loaded that defensive backfield was and that defense was for Cal this year from an NFL talent standpoint. Noah Williams, Marcus Harris both got drafted at cornerback. Teddy Buchanan, a great coverage linebacker, was there as well. It allowed Craig to be a little more purposeful in where he was going, right? In the past, it was more, I got to clean up a lot in front of me. I got to make plays in the perimeter. I got to do this and that. I think they played really strong as a defensive backfield unit at Cal, and that showed that Craig Woodson has the football IQ to adapt, to adjust, to make plays, and not just clean up mistakes. And I think that's what he showed with NFL teams this year, is that he's more than a height, weight, speed athlete who can play on special teams. He certainly is that, but Craig Woodson showed he can play a little bit of strong, definitely some free safety early in the NFL, and I would expect him to challenge maybe that free safety spot by the end of his rookie season.
I really think that Craig Woodson could be a starter for the Patriots by the end of the summer, really. When you look at the depth chart, when the pick was made, I know people were like, wait, they need help on the D-line. Why are they adding to a crowded safety room? But it's like, if you look a little closer, it's definitely one that could use some addressing. And in speaking to us, Craig mentioned how he started out as a strong safety or the field safety and then worked more at freer boundary. How did you on tape see that development for him once he switched roles? Because like you said, you invited him the year before. He comes back out and plays another season. So where was his biggest growth on tape for you?
I think the biggest growth, as I mentioned, was kind of playing within himself and picking his spots at a really high level. And what's really hard sometimes to evaluate college safeties, especially when they're guys who are top 3, top 4 round picks, is they're usually the best player, sometimes by far, in their defensive backfield. It's almost like a linebacker making up for a poor defensive line, where he's got to make up mistakes too. When you're playing free safety in college, maybe you don't trust your corners. You got to cheat over sometimes, and you leave the seam open the other side, right? Or you have to come upfield a little bit to help in run support where you don't maybe need to as well. But I thought Craig showed this year that he can do that, head on a swivel, make a lot of plays, and be athletic. But when he's tasked to do, hey, you're in this part of the field, you're in cover 3, read this, and make a play on the ball, he can really do that at a high level. And I think his ability to get in the spots he needs to disrupt where the quarterback wants to go, allowed guys like Noah Williams to make interceptions on the outside as well, too. We think sometimes that the cornerbacks kind of lead guys to safeties, or good cover corners help the pass rush, but a really good cover safety maybe doesn't get the interceptions, but he forces quarterbacks to take chances on the outside with their cornerbacks. I think Craig did a great job there. Very, very few times on film, he's in the wrong position in that defense. He is always in the right spot, free safety, coming upfield, working in run support, not biting on play action. All those little things, to answer your question, was the biggest growth he made this year. And that's why I think, to your point, him starting in the NFL early is not going to be a surprise to people who draft him in New England and people like myself who watch him closely at Cal.
Jump on the hype train, y'all. I haven't left the station yet.
Hell yeah. Another guy who will compete, if not should just outright win a spot in the Patriots starting lineup is kicker Andres Borregales. Pats have struggled a bit in the, the full-time franchise kicker department over the last couple of years, if you will. Obviously, it's been Vinatieri Gostowski for some time. Nick Folk had a couple of good years, but it was at the back end of his career. They then draft Chad Ryland. That didn't go great. Tried Joey Sly last year for a bit, and it's been fine. But they really put their money where their mouth is. They take Borregales in the 5th round out of Miami. So someone who was a consensus top place kicker in this class. I know you had mentioned that in one of your tweets about him as well, from his pro day having a good showing. So what are the Patriots getting in this guy? Is this a long-term solution to the position finally? And how do you expect his transition from Miami to New England to go?
I love the franchise kicker term. Let's coin that. He's a franchise quarterbacks, franchise cornerstones, franchise kickers. I love it. And I think it's worthwhile. I mean, I mentioned in my tweet, he's not only one of the best kickers, he was the consensus. I mean, I hate to say that every team had him as a top kicker, but I didn't find any teams that didn't have him as a top kicker in the draft. Kicker 2, 3, 4 had some discrepancies, different things, I should say, in general. But Borregales, widely viewed, that brother played at Miami, had a good career as well, too. So he comes from a kicker family. He's kicked a lot of different situations at Miami as well, too. Really consistent, especially from deep. And I think he certainly is going to be the kicker of the future of the Patriots. I think the one biggest thing you mentioned it last time, Kyle, like when did you kind of realize he was the guy? This year, kicking under such conditions and talking to his coaches about like the pressure situation. I'm talking to Evan McPherson and people at Florida when he came out of Florida, and just like almost the cockiness of like, this moment doesn't really matter to me. I'm just going to make this field goal anyways. Like that's what Borregales really has from a personality standpoint. Seeing him at the Shrine Bowl in particular, he's working after practice with the special teams coaches working on the new NFL kickoff. I'll call it the XFL kickoff because I was there when we created it, but the XFL kickoff, and he's trying things out. And it's almost like a a Steph Curry where he's just like trying a goofy shot, and after 2 or 3 tries, he nails it. Like Borregales can figure things out really, really well as being able to kick 55, 60-yard field goals. So I think the natural athleticism for a kicker is what's most impressive for a guy like him too. So no doubt he's the kicker of the future. I think he not only was the best kicker prospect in this year's draft, he's one of the better guys the last couple of years. And we've had Jake Moody's of the world that came to the Shrine Bowl as well. He's in that category of a guy that could have went over from the 3rd to 5th round as a kicker prospect.
And I think that comes through. Like when we spoke to him after he was drafted, I asked kind of, because it's always interesting for a kicker, what's your mentality? Because it's like a golfer, a wrestler. It's really just you out there with a lot of pressure. And he was just like, yeah, man. He said something. It was like military. It's like he said a one shot, one kill mentality. We're just like, yeah, I make it. And if I don't, I don't. I'm like, that's it, man. You got to be able to kind of turn your brain off to a degree. I'm excited to see what he can do.
Patriots receiving core has been in desperate need of both separation and speed on the outside, and they address both of those needs with their top pick of the 3rd round. Washington State wide receiver Kyle Williams was a late riser in the media community, but after a very strong pre-draft process, he quickly shot up boards as one of the premier pass catchers in this draft class. Williams lines up in a reduced split between the numbers and hashes, giving him a two-way release off the line against press. He gets the defender to lean with an outside fake off the line, dips his shoulder to avoid a punch while releasing inside, and stacks the defender to get wide open on a corner route. A slightly underthrown ball allows the defender to recover and break up the pass, but Williams shows incredible focus to keep his eyes on the ball, re-catch it, and get both feet in before going out of bounds. Williams is the first consistent deep threat New England's had since their last Super Bowl run, and he plays true to his electric 4.4 speed. On passes of at least 20 air yards, he ranked top 5 among FBS receivers with 14 catches and 8 scores. He also tied for 3rd in contested catches, bringing in 7 of 9 such targets. Here, Williams lines up as the backside receiver and pass option on an RPO. He slow plays his release before taking off, winning deep for what should be 6 points. But once again, the pass is underthrown, and Williams adjusts by throttling down, twirling and extending for the pass, and securing it through contact to set up a red zone possession.
Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to become members of Patriots Press Pass here on YouTube for more breakdowns just like this, as well as a ton of other great bonus content. Another guy, we didn't get to speak to him yet, but I'm excited to see him on the field, is Elijah Ponder, the edge rusher. His tape was scary, man, especially going up against some of the competition he did where they just did not have the tools to deal with him. I feel like we should be talking about him more as someone who could make a real roster push for a team where there's a lot of bodies on the edge, but in terms of pass rush juice and proven juice, they could use some infusion. So what does he bring to the Patriots, not just as a rusher, but also maybe as someone who could develop as a run defender, potentially early down player as well?
Yeah, what a great get as a PFA. Thought he had a great chance, if not almost a near lock, to be drafted. I know a bunch of West Coast area scouts on different teams were really bummed their team didn't sign him after the draft. I mean, a devastating speed rusher who can work inside, tested through the roof at his pro day. One of the best athletic testers in this edge rusher class too. And the production, you look at the actual sack numbers, you're like, it's pretty good, not great. If you go watch the film, the disruption, the sheer fear he puts in offensive tackles on both sides of the offensive line too. The fact that teams were always shipping a tight end running back or doing a bootleg away from him on film. I mean, it's some of the more devastating FCS film you'll see. And a guy who wins, he can win with speed. He can win with kind of working upfield. If the team is playing him and oversetting, he can switch back inside or bull rush right through you as well too. So a more complete pass rusher, I think, maybe the initial highlights you'll see really make of him too, but he has no doubt a chance to work part of the rotation this year as an edge rusher.
One more guy of this PFA class that I'm curious to sort of get your thoughts on is wide receiver Efton Chism.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd say Efton.
Yeah, out of Eastern Washington. We actually had Sam. I can't find his name off the top of my head, but Chism's coach, assistant coach at Eastern Washington on the pod last week to talk a little bit about him, and want to get your thoughts as well. He had all high praise for Chism, but he comes in, has one of his better years at Eastern last year, and then comes and works out with you guys at the Shrine Bowl. Patriots wide receiver room, kind of like, the kicker room hasn't been too great over the last couple of years. But Chism comes in. I wonder if your thoughts on if he can, truly compete for a roster spot in this sort of depleted, if you will, Pat's wide receiver room, given the, where it's been at lately, and just what you got from him over the couple days out there with you guys in Dallas.
Yeah, I'll let you guys announce the Patriots figure out how the receiver might shake out because they have a lot of good players there. I know the Patriots have invested a lot, not only in draft, but in free agent, retaining guys, kind of in that competition room as well, too. I will tell you, whether it's mini camp or training camp, he will have some of the best routes in camp. If he was in the Patriots camp or almost any NFL camp, he is going to win more one-on-one routes than anybody else in practice. I promise you that. I don't care who the cornerback is playing. He's that devastating in kind of one-on-one situations, which again, as a slot receiver, you don't get too many full-on ISO one-on-one off coverage, but if they play him that way, he'll do it. Chism, certainly people pointed to two things. One, the lack of a great size, and then he ran a 4.7 40-yard dash at his pro day, and a lot of teams were like, oh, can't draft that guy. Mm-hmm. I'm going to call BS on that too, because certainly, hey, maybe that you don't see the upside, take the guy in the 4 or 5 rounds to draft. I can defend that, but the way Efton Chism wins, first off, he had over 50% market share in his college career of the last 2 years at Eastern Washington. That's crazy. He's by far the best player on the field. Everyone knows the ball's going to him, and he had more than 50% of the receiving yards the last 2 years. That just goes to show that, it's undeniable production versus just really good. And then as an athlete, the 40 time wasn't great. The 10-yard split was great. 4.06 short shuttle, 6.77 3-cone drill. That's in the upper echelon of mid-day 3 receivers who play in the slot every single year, too. Really, really great numbers. And that's how he's going to win. He's going to win in the short area, quick slants, quick outs, double moves, etc. too. He was unguardable at the Hula Bowl. We called him up to the East-West Shrine Bowl, was unguardable at the Shrine Bowl during week of practice as well, too. Tough, physical, willing to block for his size as well, too. I think Chisholm's going to be one of the hardest guys to cut, no matter where he went in the draft process. If he's in the P squad, he's going to be one of the hardest working guys in the P squad as well, all off season and during the season as well, too. So he would not be a surprise at all. Again, I don't know the receiver room at all. I would not be surprised if Al makes the opening day roster because Chisholm's going to be that impressive all day in camp. And knowing Vrabel, knowing when he was the Patriot, what kind of guys they had, Chisholm makes sense for a lot of reasons to be their slot receiver. But certainly I think his on-field play in camp will make a difference.
Sam Holman is who I wanted to correct myself. I had the brain fart. Sam Holman, assistant coach at Eastern Washington. I got to give him the proper shout out. And if you want to check that out, that's on the channel, my interview with him as well. But Tayler, go ahead.
No, not at all. But no, Efton, I mean, looking at the clips from the Shrine Bowl out, he's winning off the line of scrimmage and getting just an insane amount of space. I'm worried about him making the practice squad. I don't think he's going to because I can lock it in. It's like a Braxton Berrios situation where you have that guy who he works with some of the backups, but the backups love him because he's always open and he's going to catch it and he makes you look better. I feel like Efton Chism's going to have an incredible summer, a really good preseason, and it's going to be the point where it's like, if you want to cut him, I'm sorry, you're probably not going to be able to get him
up to the entire league.
Yeah, I think one good preseason game is going to make that really tough, to your point, Taylor. And I will say, there's been a couple of, I've been going to All-Star games well before I worked at the Shrine Bowl, probably the last almost 20 years of All-Star games I've been at. And one that jumps out, it's like a smaller receiver who made a lot of plays, not just in short area routes, but vertical routes and in the red zone. John Brown comes to mind as a guy who had, similar to Efton Chism, dominated the draft process, dominated the All-Star game, ends up going late day 3 and has a 10-year career in the NFL. The way Chism can win is not just on certain routes or against certain defenders. He can win against all type of guys too. And don't be surprised if he makes a back of the red zone or back of the end zone kind of catch in a preseason game, or does a deep over route and outruns a corner you thought had 4.4 speed. He's a gamer and he'll show it in the Patriots camp and in preseason.
In the red zone, I see some Amendola to his game where he does have that knack for sneaking into the back and everyone kind of bites up and he's there.
That comp fits. There you go.
There you go. And I'm actually curious because we got a couple of Shrine Bowl guys now in the slot for the Patriots. You got Pop Douglas and you got Efton Chism, and we've seen Josh McDaniels be able to work with these guys, right? Daniel Amendola and Julian Edelman had a ton of success, got themselves a couple rings. I'm curious for people who are like, all right, how is that going to work out? And how are these guys different? It's not exactly splitting hairs because I think they can be used in different ways, but what do Efton Chism and Demario Douglas bring that's different in the slot? Or, they can also flex out as well.
Yeah, I mean, I love Pop. Pop's my guy, so I love Pop all the time too. And I think he is, much more Efton you want to get in the slot, have an outside receiver and kind of protect him a little bit and get vertical and kind of clear some space for him. And then Chisholm's going to one-on-one. I think Pop wins with more explosiveness. He's the guy you want to get the ball in his hands, whether it's a quick game, screen game, get him upfield, do a route where he can kind of be in motion a little bit and get space. I think they're very similar in a lot of ways to your point. I think Pop is better than Efton as you want him at full speed when he's catching the ball. Whereas Chism, you want to throw him the ball right when he breaks up that route because of his maximum separation. But those guys can play together. You do 4 wide sets, Pop's on one side with your Z receiver, and Pop's either threatening vertically or working after the catch. Chism by your X guy, and he's kind of playing more tight to the line of scrimmage too. So if you want to go 4 wide, I think those are the 2 ideal slot receivers you want to have outside your guys.
It's exciting. It really, and I think that, I mentioned the lack of, frankly, lack of talent the wide receiver room has been able to produce in New England the last couple of years, but continuing these dart throws on these guys, especially, talking about these Shrine Bowl guys and Pop, Chism, even Javon Baker, Jalen Polk, who weren't great last year, but, you got to keep rolling the dice. And I think that, they could potentially have a pretty good one here with Efton Chism. So we'll look forward to him potentially making the Patriots roster. We can have you back on and talk about him once again. But before we get you out of here, we started off the top about just thoughts on the Patriots in general over the last couple months. But specifically, the latest big thing was the entirety of their NFL draft class. Obviously, Will Campbell at the top at number 4 overall. They take Kyle Williams out of Washington State. Jared Wilson comes into play as well. Travion Henderson. There's a lot of guys that they brought in at the top of this class. What do you make of some of these guys? Braden Swince is another one as well who dropped down the board a little bit, but they nab him in the 5th round. So what did you make of the Patriots' entire draft class as a whole? And how do you see any of those guys potentially being day one starters, day one fits on this team?
Yeah, the 2 guys that jump out. I mean, Jared Wilson at Georgia, a super upside play, super young, has a ton of ways to get better too. I think if they could just not play him for the year or keep him out and just have him develop and grow, I think by year 3, if he has a chance to really kind of redshirt year, he could be a Pro Bowler by year 2 or 3 in the NFL. He's that talented. I think he just needs a little bit of sculpting. But there are 2 guys I thought were the best picks they made. Were probably the 2 top picks. I think people, arm length. I had mute arm length on Twitter because I was getting annoyed by Will Campbell slander. I mean, Will Campbell is an awesome player, and I compared him to Zach Martin as a prospect coming out of Notre Dame, where Zach Martin had a Hall of Fame career as a guard. He might have been a Hall of Fame left tackle too, right? And I think Will Campbell, you put him at guard, I think he might be an all-pro kind of player, but he also might be an all-pro player at tackle as well too. And as a person, as what matters to him, Will Campbell was one of the – we only had 4 blue chip, we want to call it. We have a 9.5 scale, 9.5 grades in this year's class. Will Campbell was one of them, on the same par as Abdul Carter, and we had Colson Love and viewed highly as well too. But Will Campbell's a special player, a special prospect. I think you got a slam dunk left tackle of the future, and the absolute worst case, you have an all-pro guard for the next 10, 15 years too. So great fit for Vrabel and the Titans. And man, I'll tell you, I love Travion Henderson. And in our scale, he was tied for running back 1 with Ashton Genty. And Ashton Genty did some incredible things. His break tackle ability, his contact balance is as good, if not better than anybody else I've ever seen in my entire life. But as an athlete, maybe I lean Henderson. As a pass blocker, Henderson. Run blocker, Henderson. Pass catcher, Henderson. I think the explosive ability, Henderson's so good on 3rd down that people forget that he's also really good 1st and 2nd down running back too. And he was the last 2 years at Ohio State. I think he was 1B for us in running backs in this class. And to get him where they did and to kind of be maybe the new identity along with Stevenson for the future, I think it's a slam dunk for the Patriots who want to run the ball more and want to be more versatile. I think giving Drake May the best pass blocking running back and one of the best pass catching running backs in the class and a franchise left tackle is incredible adaptation for him in the Patriots organization.
Travion Henderson kind of feels like a Rex Burkhead, James White kind of combo for me, because he gives you the James White of
but way more talented, Taylor.
Oh, 100%.
Up that Madden range by 10, 15 points. I mean,
with a jetpack on, for sure. But that ability to do everything, split out, pass protection, it's you don't really, where Rex gives you that, you don't really have to take him off the field. But of course, those guys weren't taken in the 2nd round. And I actually hadn't even watched Henderson until the day they took him because I thought they might go Genty. And I'm like, you know what? They still need a back. Let me watch Henderson. And I fell in love. I thought they were going to take him a 38th pick, and it actually came true. But I agree. He has that just well-rounded, explosive skill set where you look and you're like, the guy doesn't do anything poorly. So if you're going to take it back in the 2nd round, that's kind of skill set you want.
The only other piece on Henderson I'll mention is that, hey, he's going to come in there and he's going to split time at running back. Character-wise, through the roof. He did that at Ohio State. He stayed in school knowing they were adding another day 2 running back, Rashad Jenkins. And he stayed because he wanted to win. He was a great teammate. He helped his Junkins get better in pass catching. That's Ohio State staff, they'll tell you that. He was great with his quarterback, Will Howard. He was helping the young quarterbacks. He was helping the offensive line. I mean, this is a super high character, tough, physical, explosive, elite 3rd down player. He's the best 3rd down running back in all 3 phases I've ever seen. And I think the Patriots getting that guy to be their plug and play, currently RB2 for now, and him and Stevenson play off each other, I think it's a match made in heaven for the Patriots.
Exciting stuff. So it's great information. We appreciate it. So thank you again, Eric, for taking the time here to join us on Patriots Daily. I know I know Shrine Bowl season has come to a close a little bit, but what do you guys got coming up next? What's on the docket, and what can you share with our viewers before we get you out of here?
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited to have you guys down there in Dallas this year at the Star, the Dallas Cowboys facility again here for the Shrine Bowl. And we've had an uptick in draft pick every year for the last 3 years I've been here now, and we're looking to kind of be a best in class event. We're thankful that not only first round guys like Kenneth Grant and Zay Flowers, and then lower round guys like Brock Purdy who end up making it pretty well, or whomever else kind of play the Shrine Bowl too, but really have a great chance for NFL teams to come down there and really see how we're growing as well too. So we're excited to be a best in class event, and we'll see you guys down there here in a couple months.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
And before we do get you out of here, I want to say I always appreciate how you guys put your athletes at the forefront, make sure that they are being exposed in the best way possible. It's inconsistent sometimes, but I really, really do appreciate the way you guys go about your business. And of course,
thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for having on. Thanks for coming on. This was great. We appreciate it. Myself and Taylor will be back here on Patriots Daily later on in the week. So make sure you keep it here on Patriots Press Pass, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you very soon. Peace out, everyone.